Dominique DiPrima go way back. Tag Smiley making sure the station stays black. Discussing all the issues in our community. With hopes that black and brown and others find unity. So let's talk about it. Maybe we can improve it. Digital underground, always down with the movement. So we tune in. The first things first with the queen of Black Talk Radio, Dominique DiPrima. Go sis.
KBLA Talk 1580. Good morning and God bless. I'm Dominique DiPrima. This show right here is called First Things First. And my first thing today and every single day, giving thanks, giving praise, asking for blessings from God, asking for the blessings of the ancestors and the elders. And let's go. Man, do we have a lot to talk about these days. The way this show goes, Monday through Thursday, we typically... in hour one, we look local, what's happening in the left coast side of town, the Pacific Ocean side to be specific. In hour two, we go national, international, and beyond. And in the third hour, we do a deep dive. It's a Wealth Building Wednesday, so we'll tap in with a local or socially innovative Black-owned business. And hour three, we're going to be talking with Dr. Robin Bernstein, who's a cultural historian specializing in U.S. racial formation. So that should be quite an engaging conversation. But I'm very pleased to have with me live in studio right this second a former L.A. City Council member. He's a progressive local leader with over 25 years experience in government, politics, and public service. Known for taking those principled stands and pushing forward-thinking solutions. He was on the city council from 2013 to 2022, and just because he's not there right now doesn't mean he is not moving issues in the city of Los Angeles. Mike Bonin, welcome.
Good to be here. It's always blessed to be up before the sun.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Daylight Savings. Anyway, I was reading some of your very prolific, I don't know, we call it blogger.
Substack.
Substacker.
That's what they call blogs now, I guess.
Okay. I can't keep up. But yeah, I mean, so many people have been wallowing and I feel like ever since Election Day I've been talking folks off the ledge, and I love that you wrote a whole column focused on wins, progressive wins here in LA. And it's quite substantive. I don't know how you keep up with all that stuff, every little town from here to,
Writing it the day after Election Day was a therapeutic exercise, right? I needed to feel good about something.
Yeah.
And I spend a lot of time in my sort of post-elected semi-retirement working with and mentoring new candidates and training new elected officials. And I've always been impressed now that I've left the confines of the big city at how many really smart young progressives there are around LA County. And it's really cool to see them get elected at the city level because they're going to be the next generation of state elected officials, right? They're going to be the next assembly people, senators.
Yeah.
And there were some really good ones who got elected.
I mean, and it's remarkable. During your time on the city council, a lot of times you were the one really progressive voice, pushing the envelope further. And you left, and now there's this block. How does that feel?
It is amazing.
Really?
It is so beautiful to see. Yesterday was my first visit back to City Hall in 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And I was there because Councilmember Inesys Hernandez was introducing Isabel Jurado, who defeated Kevin De Leon, whoop, whoop,
Whoop, whoop.
Around the chambers. And I wanted to be there for that moment. And being able to see that and then seeing Hugo Soto Martinez and Marquise Harris Dawson and Inesys Hernandez and Nithya Raman sort of working the floor together on behalf of the Sanctuary City Ordinance yesterday was like really, really inspiring.
I mean, it is interesting because I remember, thinking, oh, MHD is, going to the city council, a progressive voice, and it's interesting now when I see lists of progressives on the city council, they often leave him out, which I don't know if it's fair or not, but it certainly says something about where the LA City Council has gone.
Yeah, it certainly does. It also says something about the the sort of nature of leadership, right? When you're the man, when you're the council president, regardless of your politics, you get seen as sort of the establishment. But the fact that the progressives were able to elect a former community organizer, a former head of community coalition as council president, that means something big. And we'll see in the next few weeks. One of the biggest ways he wields his power as council president is in making committee assignments. And I'm very hopeful that Marquise will be giving some good assignments to the progressives on the council so they can keep pushing some good progressive policy.
Yeah, so let's talk about some of this good news. I think people need to hear it. We've spent a lot of time unpacking the not so great news, and we can do that too if you want.
Sure.
But Measure A, I think you call it a huge win.
Yeah.
Some folks were a little on the fence, and I understood that because it seems like we've had such a lack of transparency and problems with the system itself of serving the unhoused. That's like, why are we going to put more money here?
Yeah.
But if we didn't, the consequences would have been dire.
Yeah, if Measure A had failed, and just to back up and explain it, right now, thanks to the county, we have a quarter-cent sales tax, which has helped the county pay for homeless services. So when the city builds a building, the county provides the services that goes with it, the homeless outreach, mental health, all that. That was set to expire. So what Measure A did is it allowed that to continue in perpetuity, but it also doubled it from a quarter-cent to a half-cent. So it's a huge insurance policy against the Trump administration cutting homeless funding. And it's a way to keep building on the progress that the mayor has made over the past couple of years and hopefully kind of supercharge it. And given how dissatisfied people have been about the return on their investment in the taxes they approved, it was pretty significant that people are still determined to invest in this because it won by a pretty healthy margin, and nobody expected that, including the people who were behind it.
Yeah, and especially against the backdrop of Prop 36 winning and Prop 6 going down to defeat, and Nathan Hochman winning. Ugh. It's just it seemed like almost counterintuitive that it would win.
It did, and it says something to me about the nature of the ballot propositions that we've had here in LA County over the past few years. Right, LA County's done a lot of things. They approved Measure M to expand the transit system. They did Triple H for permanent affordable housing. But in the last couple years, the ballot measures we've seen, Measure J, which dedicated county funds to jobs and services and education. Measure ULA 2 years ago.
The so-called mansion tax.
The mansion tax in LA. And this one, Measure A, they've all been put together not by politicians, not by elected officials, but by grassroots activists who put it on the ballot, who crafted it. So there's more, they're smarter because they're more informed about the actual problems and the solutions. But they also build a lot more transparency and oversight into it. Like with Measure A and ULA, like there's citizens groups that help oversee the expenditure of that funds and make sure it gets spent the way it's supposed to.
I don't want to go too doom and gloom, but I just can't let one thing you said pass by, which is an insurance policy against cuts from the administration of the president-elect. And I've never served in office, but I just started wondering, well, how much impact can and will they have? They're talking about cutting government workers, longtime civil servants, and punishing progressive cities, punishing progressive schools that even teach Black history.
Yeah.
So how much impact could an administration such as the one that was just elected have locally?
Oh, it can be absolutely devastating. It can be absolutely devastating. I mean, I don't think there's any guardrails on this presidency, and I think LA and California are going to be in the crosshairs.
Yeah, for sure.
And so we need folks who are going to fight and who are going to resist. And what I'm seeing in certainly Los Angeles is people who are willing to step up to that. Right?
Yeah.
Yesterday, they did a sanctuary city ordinance. Today, hopefully, they're approving an Olympic wage, a $30 wage by the time the Olympics get here for hotel and restaurant workers. folks are thinking strategically about how do we protect people from what might be coming. But I'm afraid that the way the Trump administration is going to play it is they're going to sort of use the Olympics as a hostage, right? And either tell Mayor Bass, hey, unless you're meaner to immigrants and to unhoused people, we're not going to help you pay for the Olympics. Or they are going to, the thing I'm really worried about is when the city entered into the Olympics agreement, Nithya Raman and I were the two votes against entering into the security agreement with the Olympics because it gives the federal government the ability to call the shots and declare a special security event, which is, I mean, to me, that's like a gateway to martial law for the Olympics and leading up to it. And the things the feds could do then, it scares the hell out of me.
And considering the fact that, they're already talking about using the U.S. military and declaring a state of emergency on day one for just for the immigration situation, it certainly doesn't seem like a far-fetched idea.
No, it doesn't seem like a far-fetched idea at all. Not just on sort of the immigration enforcement, but remember, this is a guy who campaigned for president saying, we need cops to get tougher with suspects. We need to go back to stop and frisk. There's a lot of scary ramifications, but we'll be the capital of trying to resist it.
Yeah, and I think looking at Measure A as a kind of hedge against that is a really interesting way to look at it, because we've self-funded certain programs on a long-term basis, so that any kinds of cuts, because when you say it could be devastating, I'm assuming you're talking about cuts to federal subsidies that we rely on that actually come out of California's taxes in the first place. Exactly
right. We pay a lot more than we get from the federal government. Yeah. Yesterday, when I was talking about the Sanctuary City Ordinance, the right-wingers on Twitter were saying, oh, we should stop sending you money. And I was like, well, we should stop sending you money. We're paying for Alabama. We're paying for Georgia. We're paying for Kansas.
Right. I've been trying to figure that out. If I'm your sugar daddy, how do I get nothing out of it? Mike Bonin is my guest. We'll go a little bit more into that Sanctuary City. It's a little bit of a hot topic on here. And I want to go deeper with more of these victories, because I don't track all of these cities. But now I feel smarter from reading your article. We'll let folks know where they can find it as well, and the many other things you're writing these days. 800-920-1580 if you want to weigh in. KBLA Talk 1580. We are unapologetically progressive.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward. Are you an entrepreneur looking to take your business to new heights? KBLA Talk 1580 is your partner in success. Every day, we celebrate and elevate Black-owned businesses across our community. Our KBLA SMB Marketplace currently features The Cookie Dip, Bad Ash Bakes, Hair Concoction, Higher Education Accreditation Consulting, LACC Radiology Technology Department, and Malik Books. Your business deserves to be heard. Let KBLA Talk 1580 amplify your voice and connect you with our powerful community of listeners. Email smb@kbla1580.com today. That's smb@kbla1580.com. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
I went to My Computer Career because I needed job security.
Because I wanted a career in cybersecurity.
I went to My Computer Career because IT jobs are everywhere.
My old job was going nowhere.
I went because I didn't want college loans for the rest of my life.
Because I wanted a career for the rest of my life.
Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation today. Classes available online or in person. Financial aid available for qualified students, including the GI Bill. 529 college savings plans accepted.
You okay?
Sorry, I can't sleep with this cough.
Sounds like you need to vaporize that cold.
Vaporize?
Yeah, with NyQuil VapoCool. It's NyQuil plus a rush of Vicks vapors.
Whoa.
So you ready to get some sleep? Thank you, NyQuil VapoCool.
NyQuil VapoCool, the vaporizing nighttime coughing, aching, fever, best sleep with a cold medicine. And to vaporize sore throat pain, try Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you interested in catching up on all the latest entertainment news? trending topics and exciting interviews? I got you. Tune in to The Raw Report with Robin Ayers, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. I'm your host, Robin Ayers. Join me every weekday with some of the best entertainment contributors in the business as we break down what's going on, who's got next, and what not to miss. Only on The Raw Report with Robin Ayers.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Moments like making my kids my famous meatballs mean a lot to me. But after being diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, or MBC, which is breast cancer that has spread to other parts of the body, they mean even more. I take Ibrance, palbociclib.
Ibrance 125 milligram tablets with an aromatase inhibitor is for adults with HR-positive, HER2-negative NBC as the first hormonal-based therapy. Ask your doctor about Ibrance and visit Ibrance.com. Ibrance may cause low white blood cell counts that may lead to serious infections. Ibrance may cause severe inflammation of the lungs. Both of these can lead to death. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening symptoms, including trouble breathing, shortness of breath, cough, or chest pain. Before taking Ibrance, tell your doctor if you have fever, chills, or other signs of infection, liver or kidney problems, are or plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding. Common side effects include low red blood cell and low platelet counts, infections, tiredness, nausea, sore mouth, abnormalities in liver blood tests, diarrhea, hair thinning or loss, vomiting, rash, and loss of appetite.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DiPrima right now.
Right now, we're talking with Mike Bonin, one of our progressive really leaders here in Los Angeles, both when he is on the city council and when he's not. Going through this one article, your Substack is at mikebonin.substack.com, right?
Yes.
And there's a whole bunch of articles. I just like this one because it's talking about, it's called Looking for a Silver Lining in Los Angeles, Signs of Hope in Local Government. And you actually found quite a few of them. Well, you talked about the judges. I know you're happy about the 2 public defenders.
Yeah.
I'm happy because we elected all black judges.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, like, really?
Yep.
LA County, woohoo, 5 black judges.
Well, I think you're the only outlet that has talked about that race.
Yeah.
One, even before the election, but even now, afterwards, nobody's talking about the fact that this is the second election in a row where we've elected public defenders, black public defenders, to the bench. And the Defenders of Justice slate that La Defensa and others are doing, that's actually beginning to show some fruit.
It's amazing because people don't pay attention to judges. I started forcing myself to do it a few years ago with the help of Attorney Carrie Harper, but they make it easy.
Yeah.
To at least know who the ones we must vote for are, right?
Yep.
But then even, some of the other African Americans that were elected that aren't PDs were pretty dope to me.
Yeah.
I loved Sharon Ransom. I interviewed her.
Yep.
And we had 2 good choices in that race.
We did.
And
we did.
Georgia Huerta's not a public defender now, but she's worked as one.
Yes, she has.
So, I mean, it's a pretty, and I just, I liked Tracy Blunt.
I did too.
She's not, a classic progressive, but I just liked her. She seemed like a sensible human being.
Yep, I supported her as well.
Yeah, so that was a lot of wins.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. A lot more to go on filling out the bench, but it's a good start.
Right. Especially with the fail in the DA's race.
That was heartbreaking. I was at a Gascon rally the night before the election, and we were all hoping against hope that the polls were wrong.
Yeah.
But that's been sort of the trend nationwide. I mean, the progressive prosecutors have been really taking it on the chin.
Yeah. Well, backlash. I guess it's a logical place for them to start with a backlash. I know Isabel Jurado. CD14, the so-called secret tapes, they were talking about you and your baby.
Yeah.
So, and you don't seem like a vengeful person, but there's got to be a little bit of dancing going on somewhere.
Oh, more than a little. I was doing a jig.
Yeah.
That to me was a very personal race. One, I'm very invested in growing the progressive movement in LA, but there was the personal aspect of that, and I think Kevin behaved reprehensibly on the tapes, and honestly ever since. Like, I don't think he changed his tune. I think he doubled down on it.
Yeah.
And
it was Sorry Not Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is the name of another one of my essays on Substack. Is that night, I went to Isabel's victory party, and by then we knew what the presidential results were, right?
Yeah.
We knew what was happening with Gascon in 36, and it was a bleak mood. But in that room, there was this little bubble of joy, and it was really, really inspiring and empowering and heartwarming. Of course, then I had to walk back outside afterwards to the real world, but it was nice to know that there's still places here in Los Angeles that are voting for the right things and are not succumbing to appeals to our worst instincts. And there's a lot of that around.
Yeah, I feel like De Leon played down his role in that tape, and he was kind of saying like, well, I didn't really say anything bad, except you didn't even defend yourself against charges, against anti-indigenous,
right.
sentiment, and on. We could go on about that.
Yep.
But for me, of course, I felt your pain as a mama. Like, but also, like, for me, if he would have won, that's such a slap in the face to Black LA. It's like,
oh, yeah.
Anti-blackness is good. Open season.
Yep.
Go for it.
Yep.
And
he, I never saw him actually make any genuine apology for anything he said. Was he going to black churches on Sundays and making apologies to folks? No. Was he doubling down on the stuff he said and continuing to sow racial divisions as he was running for re-election? Yes.
Yeah.
It was the opposite.
Yeah.
Of an
I saw
apology.
that as it was a very anti-black strategy, election strategy.
Yeah.
If there could be a Southern strategy in Southern California,
yep,
it was definitely being deployed.
Yep, and it did not work.
No, and I also think, and I'll love to hear your take on this, but I feel like Isabel's campaign was really grassroots and really disciplined, and they got it done. I mean, they had help from Black Lives Matter LA, they had help from the indigenous community, but it seems like they ran a great campaign.
They did. They knocked on, I think, between the primary and the general, I think they knocked on about 150,000 doors. They didn't spend money on mail. There were some independent expenditures on their behalf, but they did real shoe leather community organizing. And a few years ago, people would tell you that doesn't work in a big city like Los Angeles. That doesn't work. But it's worked for Nithya Raman. It's worked for Hugo Soto Martinez and Inesis Hernandez. It's now worked for Isabel. And, even in the San Fernando Valley, where Jillian Burgos was running against Adrien Nazarian, Adrien got elected, she had no money. She didn't have the endorsements of Isabel. She knocked on about 80,000 doors, and she came within 8 points of a very well-funded, well-connected person who's part of a political machine out in the San Fernando Valley. There's something happening here that there's a positive trend in our politics, and it's leading to things like the expansive renter protections the council did 2 years ago, like hopefully the wage increase they're doing for hospitality workers today. Hopefully there'll be a block strong enough on the council to finally move armed law enforcement out of traffic stops in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I know there's some movement on that. I just did a podcast episode with Catalyst California and Community Coalition, the Push LA Coalition, talking about that. And I think there'll be some movement on that in 2025.
It's so weird. I always call California like a bipolar state because we're categorized as blue, but there's this sea of red in the middle, and it's really mostly the cities
yes,
with the dense populations where we see, blue, where we see Democrats and progressives, even more just specific in where we show up.
Yeah.
But what I think this says, and what you talked about in some of the other smaller cities, is that does still mean something. It still makes a difference.
Yeah, like in Santa Monica, for example, they 2 years ago, after after a lot of the stuff that happened in 2020, there was some looting and stuff after the murder of George Floyd. There was sort of a regressive backlash against progressives and a more conservative majority that was much more pro-police, that was anti-homeless.
City council.
Yeah, on the city council, took office. And after last week's election, it's now 6-1. Progressive. And these are folks who are pro-housing, who were opposed by the police union, who want to reimagine public safety, who actually want to do the right solutions when it comes to homelessness. And that was really encouraging. In Culver City, also on the west side, their amazing mayor, a black woman, Yasmin Imani McMorrin, got reelected despite being trashed by the police union and some of the big developers, and she got another progressive elected with her. They have a majority there now as well. So some good things happening.
Yeah, in Santa Monica, that's especially significant because they've been dodging doing a housing plan that would allow, more affordable housing,
yes.
right? And other kinds of supportive housing. And so this could be make a big difference, right?
This could be a big difference. Now, I will say, Santa Monica does a hell of a lot better job than the city of Los Angeles does.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, there's pockets of resistance that were briefly in power in Santa Monica, but last time I was on here, we were talking about the city of LA's resistance to addressing racial segregation and exclusionary land use policy. Yesterday, the Planning and Land Use Committee of the council was voting on that, and they didn't even discuss the issue. They moved the item without doing anything about that issue, which was a big disappointment.
Yeah, and it's, something's going to have to give on that. We're talking with Mike Bonin, 800-920-1580. If you've got a question or comment, we are KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Bray Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Public awareness of the 988 suicide prevention hotline is up but still low. That's according to an Annenberg Public Policy Center SSRS poll. It found only 15% of respondents could correctly name the number for the hotline. Vice President-elect J.D. Vance is stating that the Trump team is interviewing candidates for FBI director, implying Christopher Wray's departure. Vance faced criticism for missing a Senate vote, but explained he was meeting with Trump to interview for government positions. Jalen Edgar, a 17-year-old accused of a deadly mass shooting in downtown Orlando, Florida, will stand trial on March 10th. He allegedly fired into crowds during Halloween celebrations, killing 2 and injuring several others. He will be tried as an adult. And Deion Sanders, the Colorado head football coach, dismissed rumors about him potentially leaving the program for another job, including the NFL. Sanders signed a 5-year contract with Colorado prior to the 2023 season. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Every business faces challenges, but shipping shouldn't be one of them. Turn shipping to your advantage with USPS Ground Advantage from the United States Postal Service. Learn how at USPS.com/advantage. USPS Ground Advantage. Simple, affordable, reliable.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers got a breakout performance last night from rookie forward Dalton Knecht. Knecht dropped a career-high 37 points to spark the Lakers to a 124-118 win over Utah at Crypto.com. The Lakers have won 6 straight. Knecht made 9 3-pointers to tie a single-game record for NBA rookies. 7 of those 3-pointers came in the final 3 minutes of the third quarter. Knecht has been in the starting lineup the last 3 games in place of Rui Hachimura, who's out with an ankle injury. In the 3 games, Knecht is averaging 26 points and shooting 63%. It might be a while before we see Hachimura back in the starting lineup. Russell Westbrook earned his 200th career triple-double last night to help Denver beat Memphis. The 36-year-old Westbrook had 12 points, 10 rebounds, and 14 assists. I said it before and I'll say it again. Westbrook will still look good in a Clippers uniform. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hello, LA. Metro is your partner for thriving communities and sustainable travel. We're dedicated to providing better transit for everyone. When you go Metro, you're more connected to jobs, healthcare, school, and loved ones. It's the way of the future. Start your journey at metro.net.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it
down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad Pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million+ products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Point! Hey, you okay? You don't normally miss those shots.
I just haven't been as regular lately, and it's making me feel sluggish.
You should try Metamucil. It's been a game changer for me. Metamucil's plant-based psyllium fiber helps trap and remove the waste that weighs you down. Ace, you're moving better than you were last week.
Definitely.
Metamucil keeps you moving. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Learn more at Metamucil.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
And Mike Bonin is my guest this hour. So yesterday, the Long Beach Police Department killed Brandon Boyd last night. It's a 38-year-old black man, father of 4, killed him on the steps of a church. He actually called the police himself because he was having a mental health episode. And then reportedly after they killed him, they arrested 2 of his sisters and his niece because they were grieving too loudly. Police are claiming he was armed. We just saw this similar situation right in Vegas where last week Las Vegas cops killed Brandon Durham. He called them for help. And the week before that, 17-year-old Rayvon Shaheed was killed by Michigan State troopers because he was running. Little kid. Why am I saying all this? Because we started off talking about sanctuary cities.
Yeah.
And I personally don't want to see people rounded up and, abused. At the same time, as African Americans, and it's really a common conversation on this show, and I'm feeling a way too, how much the politicians right now are scrambling and jumping through hoops to declare we're going to protect immigrants. We're going to protect the LGBTQ plus community through this administration, this new Confederate authoritarian administration.
Right.
But I haven't heard anything about what y'all are going to do to protect black citizens. it's a sanctuary city, but it's fine to keep killing us.
Right.
That's the message that you're sending, and that's the message we're getting, not just from white politicians, from black politicians as well. Why won't they do anything?
There is a tremendous reluctance / fear to take on issues of systemic racism because they're hard, they're complicated, right? They're not catchy slogan stuff. To undo systemic racism in law enforcement, to undo systemic racism in land use, you got to do some long, hard work. And people who are willing to go to a march and go to a protest and say Black Lives Matter, they're good with that until there's some discomfort, right? And you have to change the systems they benefit from. And I think that's where a lot of it comes from. Doesn't mean it's any less important and doesn't mean it shouldn't be talked about. I was frankly shocked, and I also wrote about this, around the conversation for the selection of the new police chief.
Yeah.
When that announcement was made, the whole conversation was about preparing for the Olympics, and even more, it was about officer morale.
Yeah, I read that Substack too, and honestly, it reflected a conversation we've been having here, and even McDonald's saying, "Oh well, I've evolved on immigrants. I'm not going to cooperate with ICE." Well, have you evolved on killing black people?
Right.
Because we need to hear that, and we haven't heard one single thing.
Nope, not there was almost no discussion of that. There was almost no discussion.
And yet the administration is talking about bringing. The administration-elect talking about bringing back stop and frisk. We need 1 day of good policing, unleashing the military to deal with houselessness, which read black people.
Yep.
So where's our sanctuary?
We absolutely need one. I mean, it shouldn't be that progressives or Democrats talk less about the other issues.
No.
But they need to talk more about the issues of police violence. They need to talk more about the issues of systemic racism. That needs to be up there.
And here's the thing, and we were talking about this off the air. Dems, do you know who your base is? Have you met your base? And so are you... It feels like, yeah, I can see what you're saying about these issues being tough, but at least...
But that's why you have to deal with them, right?
And also, you at least say something.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the mayor, who I adore, gave the police historic raises.
Yep.
And she gave them their candidate for police chief.
Yep.
When is it enough? When are you gonna? When does the progressive part come?
It needs to be coming right now. I mean, the city has moved so backwards on policing. I teach a course at Occidental on the politics and policy of policing and law enforcement, and the whole theme of it is, in 2020, we said this. What the hell happened?
Right.
That's the whole theme of the class is why has everything gone backwards and why aren't we moving forward? I've spoken to Marquise and he said he's going to form a special council committee on reimagining public safety, on unarmed alternatives, getting cops out of traffic stops. Those are important conversations that a lot of cities aren't having at all. If we can, while we're leading on standing up for the LGBT community, standing up for immigrants, if we can lead on that, that's really, really crucial.
Yeah. I think you said in your Substack, when you were writing about Jim McDonnell, that, okay, I'll quote, he's a familiar, generally well-regarded police veteran who served as LAPD assistant chief, Long Beach police chief, before running successfully for county sheriff, and that you supported him in that race. Black Lives Matter tried to block that confirmation. I'm pretty sure they knew it was a long shot.
Yeah.
But there has been a lot of community unhappiness with that. The mayor had the opportunity to appoint a black woman who has a pretty strong history around community policing. The first Latino police chief. I wasn't super thrilled because I knew he donated to De Leon.
Me too.
But others have said that, at least he was more open to talking with community-based organizations.
And he was working for Gascon as well, Bobby Arcos.
Right. So she made a conservative choice, and a lot of people felt like, well, let me just speak for myself. I felt like, okay, she's thinking of the Olympics.
Right.
She's thinking of the Super Bowl and the All-Star game, and she's placating the police union, who spent millions of dollars to try to keep her from being elected. She's got to be reelected. So, I mean, obviously you can see the challenge here and the good because you've previously endorsed this guy. So talk me off the ledge when it comes to the police chief.
I'm not sure I'm the right guy to talk you off the ledge on that one. I'm on the ledge with you. When he was running for sheriff, I thought he was the best candidate in that field. I mean, you don't get a lot of progressives running for sheriff. As chief, I'm concerned. My choice probably would have been Amada Tengarides, who's experienced in community policing and would have been a very good chief, I think. What concerns me about the conversation, about the appointment of McDonnell, is that we didn't even have the conversation about police violence. We didn't even have the conversation about racial bias in policing.
Or gangs.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's more focused on the sheriff, but yet on Thursday we started trial about the SWAT mafia, which sounds awfully lot like a gang to me.
Yeah.
That's within the LAPD.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
And one of the critiques of McDonnell is he didn't do anything.
Yep. We
to
didn't
purge
talk
gangs
about
from the sheriffs.
All of these scandals in LAPD over the past couple of years. We didn't talk about the explosion of a neighborhood in South Los Angeles in Karen Price's district a couple of years ago over the fireworks. Like, to my mind, LAPD has been the source of so many scandals over the past couple of years that if it weren't for City Hall corruption and the tapes, I think the police department scandals would be bigger, right? City Hall has overshadowed the police department problems, but those should have been forefront of the discussion. In my dream, I would have, because this is the bulk of the city budget, right? This is where most of the money goes. This is where most of the personnel is. I would have loved to have seen like a 4-day confirmation process where they really grilled down on
hearings.
Yeah, like you do for we used to do for Supreme Court and cabinet secretaries.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay, you're assuming that the president-elect is going to get his recess appointments, I guess, so we can skip the testimony about Dr. Oz. But yeah, I mean, when you say scandals, you're not talking about the killing of black folks. You're talking about things like, the relationships, the crazy internal relationship stuff.
Yeah, I mean the scandals at City Hall, like the Fed tapes and the corruption stuff, the arrests, those have overshadowed, and those are big stories, but those have really overshadowed coverage of the ongoing scandals in LAPD, where we've had people falsifying evidence. We've had people, a senior police commander, putting an air tag to track a fellow officer he was having a relationship with. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff over the past couple of years in LAPD that, it gets a headline for a couple of days and then it goes away.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of that too, because sometimes I see these things and he was selling cocaine. What? And then we pivot back to the election or back to You also said that we didn't talk about the fiscal reality, which is really interesting because I haven't heard anyone mentioning that.
Yeah, I mean, right now, we're doing what the city did back under Antonio Villaraigosa, right? When there was a fiscal crisis on his watch, they cut everything.
Right.
People were being furloughed, and people were doing, a day off every 2 weeks for no pay, but we grew the police department. Right, and that's kind of what the city's approach is now. We're continuing to grow the police department. The police department budget and the police raises are one of the biggest reasons we're in a fiscal crisis. And we keep saying, a lot of people in City Hall keep saying we have to grow the police department. Well, it's not going to freaking happen, right? The money isn't there. And as we prepare for the Olympics, we can't dismantle every other department in the city. So why aren't we having that conversation with this guy and saying, a realistic conversation, how are you going to reconstruct an LAPD that is smaller?
Yeah. In other words, how can you handle all these big events without this mythical 10,000 officers
Yep.
that we are always talking about
Yep.
getting to with every single mayor? Yeah, we're talking with Mike Bonin, and we will continue the conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
Have you heard of the 50-30-20 rule? This can help you spend and save your money wisely. So, how does it work? Distribute your dollars into 3 buckets. 50% towards needs, 30% towards your wants, and 20% goes to savings. Use this tool to help your journey to financial success. Sponsored by J.P. Morgan Chase & Company.
If you're an adult in need of accredited high school diploma, the Los Angeles Public Library can help. You can earn one for free in as few as 5 months online with 24/7 access. You also get a personal academic coach plus special training focused on 9 in-demand industries, as well as a resume and cover letter to advance your career. Visit the website at lapl.org/diploma. That's lapl.org/diploma.
Whether you're going over the river and through the woods in the capable Silverado 1500, getting the choir to church on time in the 3-row Traverse,
Thank you.
or driving cross town to deliver your famous Cajun-spiced holiday turkey in the Equinox EV, America's most affordable EV with a 315-plus mile range. Add confidence to every holiday adventure and get it done with a rugged and capable Chevy truck or SUV. Find your red tag. Get 0% APR financing for 36 months on select popular Chevy models when you finance with GM Financial. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
Offer available on all 2025 Equinox and 2024 Silverado, Equinox EV, Blazer EV, and Silverado EV models. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 22.2%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 12/2/24.
Thank you.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com. Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad
I
Council.
went to My Computer Career because I needed job security.
Because I wanted a career in cybersecurity.
I went to My Computer Career because IT jobs are everywhere.
My old job was going nowhere.
I went because I didn't want college loans for the rest of my life.
Because I wanted a career for the rest of my life.
Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation today. Classes available online or in person. Financial aid available for qualified students, including the GI Bill. 529 college savings plans accepted.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
Yeah, a lot going on in the YouTube chat. Starving Myself to Life says, listen, folks, the mayor's first obligation is to the financial development of their jurisdiction. Don't be confused by this. Addressing crime is in hopes of attracting new development. Molly Bell says that give us the directions. If the mayor passes Sanctuary City, give us the directions and address. We need to move to it immediately. And then Brenda Edwards asks, what does Mike Bonin think about the California reparations bills?
I wish we had passed them. I'm not certainly as fluent in the details of what happened in Sacramento, what the politics were, what the legislative maneuvering is. Those are conversations that, certainly my former constituents are wary of, but I think we need reparations, period.
Yeah.
Full stop.
I guess it's hard to predict the future, but we've been promised by, and some people don't want to hear any promises, but a number of members of the state legislature, the Congressional Black Legislative Caucus, that those will come back, that they will pass. And, there's a lot of different strategies, I guess, for how to pressure and make that happen. What would you say if those were bills you were working on as a community organizer? What would you say would be an effective strategy?
Oh, well, certainly don't relent. I think what you need to be doing is keeping the pressure on the elected officials that are making the commitments. But then you also have to find ways to get to the elected officials who are the squishy ones, right? I think the reparation bills are going to have a tougher time now than they would have had Democrats won, right? Now you've got moderate Democrats who are afraid of anything that is outside the center or is imaginative or is systemic, and it's going to be real hard, especially in Sacramento, where, you know, people talk about, oh, it's a one-party state. It may be everybody's a Democrat or most everybody's a Democrat, but there's progressive Democrats and then there's the moderate, more conservative Democrats, and those are like two different political parties.
Yeah, I mean, we see that on the national scale, where we couldn't feed U.S. babies because of Joe Manchin.
Yep.
You know, and Kristen Sinema, who are both supposedly Democrats.
Yep. Exactly. The other thing that folks should be doing is, next time the Speaker of the California Legislature, Robert Rivas, is in Los Angeles, get him on the show, put some pressure on him. There's a lot of folks running for governor now. Where are they on this? You know, a lot of folks running for governor they supported Prop 36, they opposed 33, they're leaning conservative. This election is an opportunity to put the gubernatorial candidates on the spot on it, because even if the legislature passes it, you need the governor to sign it. So get some of these folks to come forward.
Yeah, as we saw with the governor not signing that one reparations bill about returning people's lands.
Wild.
Yeah, so I want to go back to some of the victories that you talked about. You were mentioning off air. A measure that passed in Pomona. Yeah,
really exciting. You don't think of Pomona as sort of the bastion of progressivism, but in Pomona in this cycle, against the will of almost every elected official there, voters approved a ballot proposition that allocates 10% of the city's general funds to children's programs and children's resources, which I've never heard done before. It's very similar in intent to Measure J that county voters passed a few years ago to say we have to spend money on healthcare and education and jobs and all this. And it's an amazing approach. Now the city really has to focus on its youth, the thing that we really need to be investing in.
If you look at most city budgets, is a tiny sliver, nowhere near 10%.
Tiny. And it's going to be real interesting to see how that is implemented, what they define as a children's program, right? And the money for it mainly came from some children's organizations more in Northern California. It was an odd choice to pick Pomona, but I'd like to see that kind of measure in a lot of other cities.
As kind of a test case.
LA next.
Yes, indeed. Okay, you mentioned Santa Monica. We didn't talk about we talked about Culver City. We didn't talk about West Hollywood, in Montebello, Burbank. I mean, these are just not places that I think of as progressive.
Exactly. One place where you're seeing progressivism really, really get strong is in the southeast Los Angeles cities, in Sela. Cudahy, for instance, not a place that people associate with, aggressive progressivism. Aggressively progressive. There are a number of young Latinas who've been elected to the city council there. They pushed, in a city that is 80% or so, if not more, renter, they pushed like the first series of renter protections over the past couple of years. They were the first city in LA County to call for a ceasefire resolution in the Mideast. They're really getting sort of muscular and aggressive, and it's because they're like deeply rooted in their communities, and they know they're renters. They know what's going on. And in Montebello, you've got Scarlett Peralta there as well. It's sort of a growing dynamic that I think is worth keeping an eye on, because, like I said, these are the next folks who are going to be our state legislators too.
You also point out Baldwin Park, Progressive Mayor Emmanuel Estrada, and Linwood. You said Lorraine Avila Moore. So this also flies in the face of this perception we have right now that Latinos have all gone
right.
MAGA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. What's really interesting is that in Los Angeles County, most of the really interesting, not all, but most of the really interesting progressive leaders at the LA city level and at the LA County level, the small cities, they tend to be Latino. primarily Latina, more women than men I'm seeing, and also very, very dedicated to multiracial coalitions, which we did not see over the past 10 years with the folks on the tapes, right? And they are sort of building these coalitions so that another person who I failed to mention in the Substack article who got reelected in Linwood was Linwood School Board member Gary Hardy, who's one of the few African Americans left as an elected official in the Linwood area. Very strong progressive. He's sort of resisted some of the right-wing pushes in the Linwood schools. He got reelected as well, too. So really some really good stuff happening there.
Yeah, we didn't do a lot of national because this is my local hour, but it seems like you and I are more or less on the same page with all this hand-wringing about what Dems need to do next.
Lean into progressive values. Voters support Medicare for all.
Yep.
They support raising wages. They support forgiving student loan debt. All of these things that Bernie talked about 4 and 8 years ago are things that are enormously popular. And the idea that we have, as a result of this election, the idea that we need to be sort of a less overtly bigoted version of Trump instead of leaning into populist economic policies is absurd to me and scary to me, and sadly, with the Democratic Party's history, absolutely unsurprising.
Yeah, absolutely unsurprising. Just got a short time here. Remind folks how they can track your writing and keep up with the work you're doing.
Sure. So there's Substack, but I also am hosting 2 podcasts. One is What's Next Los Angeles, my solo podcast, focusing on local affairs and local officials and local leaders. And then I just started co-hosting LA podcast, which is sort of a discussion, topical conversation about LA public affairs and news.
And we can find those
wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, any of them.
Okay, and of course, MikeBonin.substack.com for the articles. Yep. Thank you so much for coming in.
My
it's
pleasure.
Great to see you, and
bet.
Thanks for giving us a silver lining this morning.
You bet. Thanks.
All right, it's Wealth Building Wednesdays next on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Brie Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Public awareness of the 988 suicide prevention hotline is up but still low. That's according to an Annenberg Public Policy Center SSRS poll. It found only 15% of respondents could correctly name the number for the hotline. Vice President-elect J.D. Vance is stating that the Trump team is interviewing candidates for FBI director, implying Christopher Wray's departure. Vance faced criticism for missing a Senate vote, but explained he was meeting with Trump to interview for government positions. Jalen Edgar, a 17-year-old accused of a deadly mass shooting in downtown Orlando, Florida, will stand trial on March 10th. He allegedly fired into crowds during Halloween celebrations, killing 2 and injuring several others. He will be tried as an adult. And Deion Sanders, the Colorado head football coach, dismissed rumors about him potentially leaving the program for another job, including the NFL. Sanders signed a 5-year contract with Colorado prior to the 2023 season. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Every business faces challenges, but shipping shouldn't be one of them. Turn shipping to your advantage with USPS Ground Advantage from the United States Postal Service. Learn how at USPS.com/advantage. USPS Ground Advantage. Simple, affordable, reliable.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers got a breakout performance last night from rookie forward Dalton Knecht. Knecht dropped a career-high 37 points to spark the Lakers to a 124-118 win over Utah at Crypto.com. The Lakers have won 6 straight. Knecht made 9 3-pointers to tie a single-game record for NBA rookies. 7 of those 3-pointers came in the final 3 minutes of the third quarter. Knecht has been in the starting lineup the last 3 games in place of Rui Hachimura, who's out with an ankle injury. In the 3 games, Knecht is averaging 26 points and shooting 63%. It might be a while before we see Hachimura back in the starting lineup. Russell Westbrook earned his 200th career triple-double last night to help Denver beat Memphis. The 36-year-old Westbrook had 12 points, 10 rebounds, and 14 assists. I said it before and I'll say it again. Westbrook will still look good in a Clippers uniform. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us in celebrating the season of giving by being part of the solution. As we enjoy great food, family, warmth, and well wishes in whatever our festive tradition may be, we share the beauty of the season by reaching out to the less fortunate. Please help us to help others with the KBLA Cover the Houseless Cozy Community Coat and Blanket Drive. All you have to do is drop off new or clean, gently used winter coats and blankets in the KBLA lobby during business hours. Now through December 20th, all of the coats and blankets will be donated to unsheltered individuals and families experiencing houselessness. Simply bring your donation to 4434 Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles, near Vernon Avenue, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. That's 4434 Crenshaw in historic Leimert Park. During the holidays and every day, let's remember, we keep us safe. We keep us warm. We are the safety net, and together we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.